In today's edition of NHL Trade Talk, we have a bunch of new trade rumors to discuss that surround the teams of the Washington Capitals, the Montreal Canadiens, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Florida Panthers, and the Calgary Flames. And that's all coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. If you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, today we're discussing some of the latest NHL trade talk that surrounds 5 teams. Now I want to get started with the Washington Capitals. Now what led to this was they signed their goalie prospect out of Russia, Ilya Samsonov, to his entry-level contract yesterday. So it wasn't too long ago, back towards the end of the regular season, we had discussed how the Washington Capitals may look to move one of their goalies this season, and that Braden Holtby might actually be that guy. But how we discussed the reasoning behind that was that we figured Grubauer, who was likely going to be starting in goal for the playoffs, if he went on a good run and kept the net throughout the playoffs and had a good playoff run for the Capitals, that might prompt the Capitals to consider trading Braden Holtby, considering he's a little bit older, makes more money, it might give them a lot more flexibility. Plus, we discussed the likelihood that they might be signing Samsonov to have him in place for next season. So therefore, they could go with a Samsonov and Grubauer 1A, 1B type tandem, or Grubauer could be the starter, Samsonov could be the backup, etc. But obviously, things haven't quite panned out. Grubauer did start in the net for the playoffs like we had thought was a possibility, but Holtby has since taken that back and done quite well. So it doesn't look as though Braden Holtby is going to be losing his starting goaltending job going into next year. Now, could they still consider trading him? It's always a possibility, but they certainly have a lot of decisions to make in Washington. Obviously, they have Holtby signed for a number of years yet at a good salary. Grubauer needs a new contract, and now they have Samsonov signed to his entry-level deal. So there's no goaltending controversy as of yet. It kind of depends on where they feel that Samsonov best fits to start his professional career in North America. He's put up phenomenal numbers in the KHL, so obviously that's very encouraging to think that he's going to probably be a potential goaltending superstar in the NHL. So do they put Samsonov down in the American League for a year and kind of let this ride out and see what happens? Or do they consider moving one of Holtby or Grubauer in the offseason and let Samsonov have at least the backup position for next year? I mean, obviously, where he's been playing in the KHL, he's used to playing against men. He's in a professional type atmosphere in the league. Now, obviously, the league over there is different than the NHL, so doesn't mean he's going to jump right into the NHL and have a ton of success right away. But he certainly has that potential, and it certainly will be interesting to see how they proceed with this. Even if Braden Holtby has finished a strong year and has a good playoff run for the Capitals, it still wouldn't completely shock me to see them move him in the offseason because obviously where he's rebounded to get his game back, played well in the playoffs, his trade value would be fairly high, so they might be able to restock other areas of their team. You take the fact that Holtby's salary would be going out, plus what they'd be bringing back, they might be able to strengthen other areas of their team and still have pretty solid goaltending between Grubauer and Samsonov. Now, the other option they could do, they could look at maybe moving Grubauer, leaving Holtby in the net, and setting up Samsonov to be his heir apparent in a couple of years down the road. Anyway, they don't necessarily have to make a move, but we had discussed a while back with Holtby possibly being a trade chip this summer with the fact that Grubauer starting in the playoffs and Samsonov getting signed. Well, a lot of that has played out, but it hasn't played out exactly how we had positioned things. So it could still happen. They may opt to just to put Samsonov down in the minors for a year, see how he does in the American Hockey League. But they may opt to move one of their goaltenders. Both goalies they have are pretty solid guys. The goaltending trade market and free agent market for this summer is kind of on the weaker side. There's not much out there that anybody who's a definite starting position. So this is certainly add to some interesting movement here should something like this go down. So leave some comments down below. What do you think the Capitals, or what's their best move here? Do they put Samsonov into minors, or do they look at moving either Holtby or Grubauer in the offseason and bringing Samsonov up to the main club to start next season? Now let's jump into some other teams here. Obviously we have the Carolina Hurricanes and the Montreal Canadiens. Now those two teams that we're going to discuss are kind of linked together here. Now obviously they both were lucky in the draft lottery. They have the number 2 and number 3 picks respectively here, with the Hurricanes sitting at number 2 and the Habs at number 3. Now we've already seen some discussions whether or not they would consider trading those picks, etc. Now I do have a scenario in place here where I've seen some speculation that maybe they could look at either swapping picks or have a deal go down at the drafts that might involve Habs forward Max Pacioretty. Now, as we know, Pacioretty's been on the trade rumor charts for many months now, and it seems quite likely that he does get moved this summer based on everything that we've heard out of Montreal. A few of the teams that were reportedly showing a lot of interest in Pacioretty, one of them was the Hurricanes, and another one is the Florida Panthers here that we're going to discuss momentarily. Now, is it possible we could see a deal at the draft with Pacioretty going from the Habs to the Hurricanes and involving a package of draft picks possibly being swapped? For example, the Carolina Hurricanes have a center iceman that's young and is ready to step into the NHL, Martin Necas. He has chemistry with Filip Zadina, who's expected to go 2, 3, 4, not in the top picks. Maybe the Habs, let's just say that they work out a deal. The Habs decide they'd really like to have Zadina. Maybe the Hurricanes would really like to have Svechnikov or Tkachuk or one of those other guys. Maybe they work out a deal where they swap picks. Maybe Carolina sends Necas to the Habs. Habs can draft Zadina so they can play together. In return, Pacioretty goes to the Hurricanes. Then maybe there's another contract swapped in there, maybe as well, to kind of even things out a little bit. I think the Habs getting Necas for Pacioretty. It's hard to say. I mean, obviously Pacioretty is a proven goal scorer, where Necas is a highly touted prospect. I'm not sure if that goes 1 for 1, but either way, we could possibly see a package going back and forth between Montreal and Carolina, where Pacioretty goes to the Hurricanes. In return, maybe the Habs get Necas, draft Zadina, then they got a nice young center wing pair to play together, which will boost their offense and kind of solve some of the issues they've got going on out front. So that's not a guarantee to go down, but it's certainly a scenario that I can see happening with the Hurricanes. Obviously wanting to make some moves to get better. The ownership was obviously putting a lot of pressure on them to kind of improve their play, be harder to play against, get more offense, etc. So that could be the type of move that we see the Hurricanes make at the draft. But at the same time, it's not a foregone conclusion that's going to happen. They may opt just to keep their pick and maybe look at doing other moves. But should the Habs not deal with the Hurricanes, we may see them deal with the Florida Panthers. Obviously, the Panthers were one of the teams that were heavily rumored to be interested in Max Pacioretty. He already spends a lot of time down in Florida, so I think he would welcome a move down to the Sunshine State. So it's hard to say exactly, but I mean, the Panthers do have a lot more depth at center ice that they could use to trade from to give the Habs the center that they need in order to get to solve that center position. And then at the same time, the Panthers can add an experienced scoring winger to kind of boost their situation down there as well. So it could be a move that works well for both clubs. I mean, obviously the Florida Panthers aren't picking as high in the draft as the Hurricanes, so it could possibly be a scenario maybe where the Habs and the Hurricanes maybe swap a couple of players. It could be a case of a center iceman going from Florida to Montreal for Pacioretty, or it could be a case maybe where the Florida Panthers include their first-round pick, maybe along and have a package deal with the first-round pick going for Pacioretty. Maybe there's other pieces involved. So I wouldn't completely rule that out either. I think Max Pacioretty is a highly likely trade target to get moved at the. Be at all surprised to see the Hurricanes or the Panthers and their first-round picks possibly be involved to make that move happen. So leave some comments down below. What do you think about Max Pacioretty leaving Montreal if he were to go to Carolina or to the Florida Panthers? I think they'd get a good return that would make the Habs team a lot better down the road, and in either of those teams get an experienced established scoring winger to really help their cause as well. It could be a good move for both clubs. It could allow the Habs to get younger and more talented, and it could allow the Hurricanes or the Panthers to get more experience and a little bit more scoring touch. So could be a good move for either club. So let me know what you think of that. Now, the last team we're going to discuss here today is the Calgary Flames. Now, we discussed here briefly before that they may look to move a defenseman in order to help facilitate some more scoring up front. Obviously, their decor is pretty strong. They have a lot of good names back there, but they could certainly use some more help in the top couple of lines to kind of solidify their scoring up front. Obviously, they have a new head coach with Bill Peters, so we'll see how the team's philosophy and systems change a little bit under his guidance. So we could see a case. Now, the name that keeps coming up is Dougie Hamilton. Now, I do hear in a way that the Flames don't really want to trade him, and I don't blame him. He had a tremendous season for the Flames, but it seems to be that the Flames are open to trading a defenseman, but when teams call the Calgary Flames and discuss about making a move for a defenseman, it's Hamilton that they want. I mean, obviously they have TJ Brody, they've got Travis Hamonic. There's other guys back there that might be desirable to other teams, but at the same time, you know, if Hamilton's what everybody wants and it's going to bring them what they need, maybe it's a move that they need to consider. So leave some comments down below. Do you think the Calgary Flames should look at moving a defenseman to upgrade their forward group? And if it means moving Dougie Hamilton, is that a deal that they should make? Obviously, I guess to a degree, it kind of depends on what that brings back. There's certainly lots of teams that are interested, and there's lots of teams that could offer different packages. So I guess in a way it depends on the return. He hasn't been linked to going to any specific teams that I've seen as of yet. I just know there's lots of teams looking for defensemen. There always is. The Flames are rumored to be looking to move one, but all the speculation that I've seen seems to be that Hamilton's the guy that everybody would be interested in, where he kind of looks upon as their top guy back there. You know, is that something you really want to mess with? Maybe they should look at other means to try to upgrade their forward group, if that's what it's going to take. I mean, obviously they give up a fair bit to get Hamilton. They haven't had him for too long, so maybe they should go a different route. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are on Dougie Hamilton. If they can get a top 6 forward for him, do they make that move? Or do they keep their top defender and maybe go a different route, different direction, and try to upgrade their forward group in a different way? Quick reminder as well, our 1,000 subscriber giveaway, we're only going to leave it open for a couple of more days here. If you missed that video after we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, we opened a contest for a giveaway for the subscribers, and we also have another logo design contest going on as well. If you missed either of those, there's a link to the video down in the description. You can check that out, follow the directions to enter the contest. We're probably going to close that up here at sometime in the next couple of days, so check that out before it's too late. If you haven't done so already, consider following us on Twitter. You're going to find our Twitter handle on the screen right here. We're very active on Twitter. We love engaging in hockey conversations with our viewers and subscribers, so check that out. Again, if you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams here. There's plenty here for all hockey fans to enjoy, so consider subscribing if you're new. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.